What is up, everybody? My name is Pierce, and today we got Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series Week 8 predictions and betting tips. And unfortunately, for some of y'all that were trying to see my sexy face, my camera is not working for whatever reason, so you will have to wait till next week to see me again on camera. But regardless, we'll do a quick recap of last week in Week 7. Went 4-1 on predictions. Got catched a big dog in Carl Williams. Good shit, Carl. Came through, and then the only one we got wrong was the Bellotto fight, which is fine because that was the back and forth fight in my opinion. But the Bonfim brothers came through. Carl Williams came through. Overall, good Tuesday last week. So let's try to replicate that this week. And we'll start off with a bantamweight bout between Daniel Marcos and Brandon Lewis. And we'll start with the elephant in the room here, which is Daniel Marcos, and he has not fought in 3 years. Well, not exactly 3 years, but about 2.5 years or something along the lines of that. But that's honestly not a great look. I don't know how he got in on Contender Series. I don't know if he knows somebody or something, because normally, if you have a 2.5 year layoff, you're not really being brought in on Contender Series. You see here he had a scheduled fight in 2020. Don't know what exactly caused him to pull out of that, but looking at his Instagram, he's been training with some of the boys up there in New England with Randy Costa, Charles Rosa. So, I don't really know what the fuck he's been up to recently. But overall, looking at the tape on Marcos, it's kind of hard to really take anything away from the tape because he's fighting dudes in Peru regional scene, and the Peruvian regional scene doesn't look that fucking good straight up. What does Marcos do well? I guess he's got decent ground and pound. In the fights I did see, he does kind of like to initiate the clinch, kind of push you up against the cage. And then, his wrestling's not that fucking good, but I will say his last fight against Gaston Manzer, he showed a lot of striking in that fight. He was able to fucking bully that dude. Like, that dude had nothing to offer him on the feet, and it was kind of just like Marcos was just walking him down, landing knees, landing body kicks, landing practically everything he fucking threw. But he looked good in that fight. But it's like I said, it's hard to really take much away from the Marcos tape because first of all, 2.5 years ago. Second of all, Peruvian regional scene. So it's like you have to take the people he's fighting with like a grain of salt. Like even though they might look like they have a good record, it's low level MMA. So overall, his game, he's like I guess you could say he's athletic and he has some power on the feet, but it's hard to really get a grasp on what he does, which makes this fight difficult to cap. But we'll go to the Brandon Lewis side. If the name sounds familiar, Brandon Lewis came on last year onto the Contender Series. He fought Mo Miller, and then I don't know what he expected to happen. That kind of went how most Mo Miller fights go. He takes you down and is just able to grind you out, and that's what he did to Brandon Lewis. But I can't hate on that loss really too much because Mo Miller is an elite level wrestler, and second of all, he's not gonna be fighting an elite level wrestler and Daniel Marcos. In regards to the Brandon Lewis tape, sorry about that. In regards to the Brandon Lewis tape, he seems like he has a good understanding of what he's doing. I guess the one knock on him is that he he gets hit and like he doesn't react to his shots very well, which can be a cause for concern. But overall, he's a very strong individual. He's got very strong striking. He's got heavy kicks. Likes to throw down in the pocket. He does have some power in his hands. Overall, his cardio, it's not the worst. It's not the best. He can kind of slow down as the fights go on due to carrying all that muscle mass. But overall, Lewis seems like he in this matchup at least he seems like he's going to be the more well-rounded mixed martial artist. Marcos, although he's shown some grappling success on the regional scene, I have seen him on his back and it's not the best look. So I mean, Brandon Lewis, I mean, he could get some grappling success. It's very possible to happen here, but I mean, even on the feet, I mean, I will agree. Marcos is probably going to be the bigger individual here. He's probably going to have the reach advantage. The measurables will probably be in Marcos's favor, but I mean, in regards to the matchup, I mean, Lewis, I mean, he's the more diverse, I guess, just better technical striker. He has more weapons on the feet. And I mean, I like his just overall well-roundedness, and I just think with the limited tape on Marcos and the fact that he's coming off a 2.5 year layoff, it's kind of hard not to go with Brandon Lewis in this fight, just based on the fact he's been more active. He's the younger individual, and just I think he has more paths to victory. I think he can win on the feet, and I think even if he wants to, he can initiate some grappling. And on top, I mean, he's solid. He's got some decent submission game, good ground and pound. But I mean, overall, I mean, not the most confidence on this fight. But I mean, I'm just gonna go with Brandon Lewis on being more active and being more well-rounded, basically. And then you look at the odds. Got Brandon Lewis minus 160, Marcos plus 140. I mean, I don't disagree with that. Probably gonna bet Brandon Lewis here in some degenerate parlays. But I mean, you can't put too much money onto this fight because there's just so many unknowns. But I will say I'm gonna go with Brandon Lewis to win, and then we'll go with Brandon Lewis by decision. And then we got the only women's strawweight fight. Or no, it's flyweight. My apologies. We got Marnic Mann versus Bruna Brazil. And I don't know why it says flyweight, but because both these girls are strawweights. I don't know if typology fucked up there or it's actually at flyweight. But regardless, we have Marnic Mann versus Bruna Brazil. And then we'll start with the Bruna Brazil tape. She is on tape is a great kickboxer. I will say she has good leg kicks on the feet, good 1-2. She does like to throw some spinning heel kicks. I mean, she's a very good kickboxer for women's MMA. I will say she's probably one of the more technical strikers we've had this season on Dana White's Contender Series in the women's divisions. And I mean, I feel like this fight's pretty straightforward to break down on the feet. I mean, you got to go Bruna Brazil here. She's definitely the more technical striker. One thing I will say though, she can kind of have her hands down on the feet, and I mean her volume's solid. It's not the best, but I mean she does love to throw those calf kicks, which in women's MMA you don't really see many females going after a heavy leg kicking game. But Bruna Brazil, I mean, great striker. But here's the main issue with her game. Her takedown defense is fucking horrible. I mean, I know she's improving. You can see the improvements being made, but I mean, it's hard not to ignore the flaw that she has in her game. And I mean, her getting pushed up against the fence and then just like, I don't know, like her takedown defense needs a lot of work. I mean, her striking's really good, but it's like, if she does make it to the UFC and she's fighting a good grappler, that's a fade spot right there. Because a lot of her opponents have taken her down, or at least in moments have gotten on top. And I mean, that's why I'm a little worried about this matchup because we have Marnic Mann fighting out of Montana. And I mean, she's definitely going to be the lot shorter, smaller girl. She is 5 feet tall. I think she's got a 6 inch height disadvantage and then like a 2.5 inch reach disadvantage, which is going to be interesting here. Bruna Brazil is definitely going to be the larger individual. But I mean, Marnic Mann's game, I mean, she's a southpaw. It's going to be southpaw versus orthodox here. She's very short and stocky. I mean, on the feet, she does leave some openings on the feet. I will say her striking defense is not the best, but I mean, she has decent power, I guess, for women's MMA. I believe this fight right here, her pro debut, she swept that girl cold. But I mean, straight up, it's pretty straightforward game plan. I feel like for Marnic Mann, if she wants to win, she has to ground the fight. I really don't see her winning minutes on the feet. I think the path to victory, at least shown in all of Bruna Brazil's fights, is you're not going to beat her standing. You're going to have to take her down. And Marnic Mann's, I mean, her grappling, you see in the Pauline Macias fight, I mean, Pauline Macias, she is a judo black belt. I believe was an Olympian as well in judo. So I mean that's a solid win. She did lose the first round, won the second, got some top time. But in the first round, Matthias was just able to ride her out on top, and then the third round was very competitive. And I believe Marnic tried to go for the back at one point. She kind of fell off and was able to transition that into a triangle choke. So I mean that's nice to see. I mean on her back she throws up some submission. She'll occasionally throw up an arm bar, a triangle. I mean she scrambles all right. Wouldn't say it's the her scrambling ability is the best off of her back, but I mean compared to Bruna Brazil, she's definitely going to be the better BJJ player on the ground. I mean Bruna Brazil, she wants to keep it on the feet. She wins the fight. Marnic Man, maybe make it dirty, get up in the clinch, drag her to the mat. I feel like if she gets Bruna Brazil down, I feel like Bruna's going to struggle to get up off of her back. I've noticed the times she does get taken down, he'll kind of, Brazil will get bailed out by the ref. The ref will just stand up. Bruna, since the other girls she's fighting just aren't doing damage, but I mean, that brings us, I mean, to the odds. I mean, I think Bruna Brazil should win. I mean, she's being brought in to win. You can tell she's the A side. Might be too early for Marnic Man. 'Cause I think she's solid. She's just a little green in her game right now. But I mean, you look at the odds. You got minus 205 Bruna Brazil, plus 175 Marnic Man. I mean, honestly, I think the odds are pretty accurate right now. I will say I'm gonna probably keep an eye on this Marnic Man line. Because it's women's MMA at the end of the day. Sometimes just being the better grappler will win you fights in women's MMA. And I'm like, if we can get like a plus 200, maybe plus 230, somewhere along the lines of that, I might have to take a shot on Marnic Man, just solely on the fact that Bruno Brazil's takedown defense is very, very questionable. And I feel like Marnic Man, I wouldn't say is an amazing grappler, but she has some competent grappling skills. And I think if she gets on top, she'll be able to waste away minutes. Hell, maybe keep an eye on that submission prop. Sprinkle of a sprinkle. You know, not a lot of confidence there, but I mean, if I think Marnic Man has a path to victory to grapple, why not sprinkle the sub? You know what I'm saying? Probably will get a good number on that, but be careful on this fight. I mean, Bruna Brazil should win. She really should, but can't bet on girls with bad takedown defense. I hope some of y'all learned that with Maria Silva a couple weeks ago. But yeah, we're gonna go Marnic Man, and then I'll say maybe Marnic Man by decision, most likely. She maybe might get a sub. I doubt it. But yeah, Marnic Man by decision, and then we will move on to the next fight. I believe it is Malik Lewis versus Trevor Peak. And this is probably going to be the most entertaining scrap on the whole card. Trevor Peak, we'll start with him. Some of y'all might recognize the name. He knocked out Kama Worthy in his last fight. Shout out to the man Cody Saftig commentating the fight. But yeah, I mean, Cody said it. He's a junkyard dog, and I mean that's probably the best way to describe Trevor Peak. He is the ultimate definition of a junkyard dog. He loves the brawl, and hell, this dude has power. As you can see, three straight first round knockouts for Trevor Peak. But I believe it was the David Robbins fight. He goes left to the body, comes up with the right, and he slept that dude cold. Y'all got to give that a watch. That was a great knockout there by Trevor Peak. But I mean, his game, I mean, it's pretty straightforward watching the tape. He loves the brawl. Very, very reckless striker. I mean, that's kind of his game, though. He's going to force you to fight. And at the end of the day, he has power, and power is the great equalizer. And most of the people he touched go down. Slept Kama Worthy fucking cold in the first round. I mean, it was a very wild fight, but I will say, Peak was definitely getting the upper hand in the striking exchanges. He was hitting some nice knees to the body, and I will say he does love to throw kicks to the body. I will say they can be naked kicks, but he is a banshee for as long as the fight lasts, which brings up question marks here because we haven't really seen Trevor Peak get extended into fights, so that brings into question what is his cardio gonna look like if he empties the tank in the first round going for the finish, and he doesn't get it. But I mean, overall, you have to respect the power that he brings into the octagon. And I mean, offensively, he will sometimes grapple, but I feel like a lot of that's just him going crazy on the feet, and then he'll just level change, and the opponent just doesn't expect that, which is smart. But I mean, overall, grappling, he's not a grappler first. He wants to bang with you, and most of the times he gets the best of the brawling. But we will go to his opponent, Malik Lewis, and then Malik, I will say. He's probably a striker first too, I will say, but he's nowhere near as reckless as Trevor Peak. I would say between the two, Malik Lewis is probably going to be the more technical striker. I do like how he feints a lot, which is very nice to see. He likes to do some good hip feints. He does do a good job of with those step in knees to the body. He loves those Muay Thai knees to the body, which is honestly a good weapon for him. I mean, overall, his grappling solid, solid. I mean, he'll have some solid takedowns. I mean, not the most high level shit, but if Malik Lewis most of the time when he fights, if he wants to get it to the ground, he can. And I mean, you see his last fight, 15-3 opponent. I mean, not the best. I mean, not the worst opposition. So that was a good win there for Malik Lewis. But I mean, overall, he's very explosive as well. I think both these dudes are very explosive strikers. I honestly don't see the fight going to decision. So talking about bets, I mean, fight doesn't go to decision. Whatever the odds open up at, probably the best bet on that fight. But in regards to a prediction, kind of hard not to go Malik Lewis here because I mean I do respect the power of Trevor Peak. If y'all want to play Trevor Peak, I would recommend just playing the KO prop. That's probably the majority of his win condition here because we never really seen Trevor Peak go a hard 15 minutes. Not saying he can't do it, but most likely he will. If he does win, it's gonna be by finish. And I mean, you look at the odds: -200 Malik Lewis, +170 Trevor Peak. I mean, I think the odds are more accurate. I mean, you can see the opener -130 Malik Lewis, and he took a lot of money now down to -200. I mean, I agree with the odds. I think Malik is probably the more technical fighter, and Trevor Peak has some question marks on his back. We haven't really seen him tested in the grappling, so it's like if Malik Lewis gets on top, I'm not sure what Trevor Peak's gonna look like on his back. And I mean, and Malik Lewis's grappling defense, I mean, it's okay. I'm not gonna tell you that he hasn't been grapple fucked before, but that was early in his career. But I mean, he scrambles solid. I've seen him throw some submissions off his back. He's gotten a triangle, I think his last fight, if I recall correctly. But I'll take Malik Lewis, probably more technical fighter. I mean, Trevor Pick's always live for the KO, so you got to be careful with that. But I guess maybe bet Malik Lewis, hedge with the Trevor Peak by KO. That's probably the way the fight's gonna go. But yeah, we'll take Malik Lewis and we'll take him by second round knockout. I think he will survive the early storm from Trevor Peak. Maybe work the body with those knees and just overall just break him in the second round. That's my opinion. And Malik Lewis is the bet for me. And then we go to the last two fights. We got Ikram Aliskerov versus Mario Sousa. And I mean, we'll start with Mario Sousa. Not once, not twice, a third time coming on Contender Series. We have Mario Souza making his third appearance on the Contender Series, and he is 1-1 on the Contender Series. His most recent outing on the Contender Series was against Chidi Njokuani, who is actually fighting this week. Fucking love Chidi. One of my favorite fighters right now in the middleweight division. But I mean, overall, I mean, I feel like this is a pretty easy fight to break down. Mario Souza gonna look to keep it on the feet. Definitely a striker. In regards to how good his striking is, I mean, he does have power. He's a long guy on the feet. He's got a good one too. I mean, he'll throw some leg kicks occasionally, but he's very reckless, hands down. But I mean, he does have power. You have to respect it. But I mean, overall, you see the holes in his game, and it's just hard to not see Ikram Aliskerov just dominate in this fight. Mario Souza, you see him at Chidi and Jaquani fight Chidi. who I think is more of a striker, was able to just take him down and just control him wherever on the ground. Mario Sousa had really nothing to offer on the ground. Chidi just fucking ended up, he broke him with the grappling essentially. I mean, and then you see in this his contender series fight before Chidi, it was I'm not even gonna bother to pronounce that name, but it was the Polish dude, Mr. Maurice. He was able to take down Mario Souza every single round. It was a unanimous decision for Souza. One of the judges had it 30-27, which is probably one of the worst scorecards I've seen. But regardless, it was a close fight. Honestly, could have gone either way. I wouldn't have been mad if they gave it to the Polish dude. But I mean, he was just on bottom the majority of the fight. It's just the Polish dude was didn't really do much damage on top, and Mario was just able to hit him with some cheeky elbows from the bottom. But I mean, he didn't really show much of a get up game in that fight. And in the Chidi fight, he showed no resemblance of good defensive grappling. So I mean, you see his most recent fights. He did beat a 14-3 Antonio Gordillo, but then you see his last fight like 0-1. Like, what the fuck? Why are you fighting 0-1 before your contender series fight? But that's neither here nor there. I think it's pretty straightforward. You're gonna want to grapple Mario Souza. No reason to test him on the feet. And I mean, fucking look at this picture right here. You got a fucking Russian, Ikram Aliskerov from Russia, and you will see he has one loss, and it comes to Kamzat Chimaev. I mean, Kamzat's the fucking man, bro. I come here, I kill everybody. I kill everybody. Trust me, I'm motherfucker. Yeah, but if you look at that Chimaev fight, watch it back. Vicious uppercut Chimaev lands. I'm sure most of y'all have probably already seen it, but Ikram, he is a combat sambo world champion, very solid fighter in general. I mean, he's fought a lot of high level dudes. I mean, you see Chimaev, but then you see like some of the records he's fighting: 12-3, 20-13, 9-4. Dennis Tululin. I mean, some of y'all might know Dennis got a win on the last UFC event. I mean, he dominated. Dennis was just able to grapple him and dominate the clinch. He just hung out. He just got that rear body lock, and it was just his fight to lose. And I mean, that's kind of his game. You see, most recently, he fought Nashan Burrell, who's a solid journeyman, but Ikram was just able to control the clinch, take him down at will, and is just kind of on top. He's very heavy on top. You know, he does a good job of controlling dudes. I mean, he's not the most aggressive dude on the ground. I mean, he kind of likes to just like hang out in half guard and kind of just waste away minutes with a solid ground and pound, decent. I mean, he's overall, I mean, smart fighter. He has a lot of system to his game. Just get to the rear body lock, take you down. He has some good trip takedowns from the clinch. You know, overall, I mean, pretty straightforward fight. Ikram's gonna want to grapple, but I mean, even on the feet, I think Ikram's probably can compete with Mario Souza. I just think Souza is just he's very reckless on the feet. So, I mean, I guess you could say maybe the path to victory is a knockout for Souza, but I mean, other than like a flash KO, I just see Ikram dominating this fight. I think out of all the favorites, he's probably the most confident to win, in my opinion. But I mean, the odds suggest that. The odds are minus 425 for Ikram, plus 325 for Souza. I mean, I agree. Ikram should be a big favorite. It's just a matter of how comfortable you are to play Ikram. Because, I mean, at minus 400, you kind of want a finish out of your fighter. But at the same time, Ikram's not really a finisher. He's a grinder. You know, he just does a good job of winning decisions and just dominating the grappling exchanges. So, I mean, I got Ikram. I think he's gonna take down Souza at will. I mean, maybe look at the submission line if we can get a good number. Souza's grappling is no bueno. So we'll go with Ikram Aliskerov by we'll go second round rear naked choke Mandaleon for Ikram, and probably look to parlay him at minus 425. But then we'll get into the last fight. Oh, we have Farid Basharat versus Allan Begosso. And this is a very high level fight. Both these dudes are very talented. I've had my eyes on both of these guys for the past couple months, more so Farid because he was supposed to fight on the Contender Series. I believe it was either week 1 or week 2. Week 1, I think. But against William Sousa. And unfortunately, Sousa pulled out literally on weigh-in day. Dude came in 10 pounds overweight, which is fucking ridiculous. But UFC did a good job getting Farid another fight on the Contender Series this season. I mean, it's kind of wild to me because the William Sousa fight, he was like a minus 230, minus 220 favorite. And now he's got Allan Begosso, who I think is definitely a lot tougher matchup than William Sousa. But yet he's a minus 330 favorite here. But we'll get into more detail on why he's minus 330. So, in regards to Farid's game, I mean, just a very smart fighter in general. He has great fight IQ. He's just does a good job on the feet at like just staying active. He has a great jab, 1-2. He kind of just likes to move at range, kind of throw leg kicks, hit you with that jab, 1-2. He does a good job of countering his opponents, but also a great job of mixing in the grappling. I think Farid's probably bread and butter here is the grappling. He's got a good single leg trip, and then once he's on top, he flows very well. If you give up your back to Farid, that is a bad idea. And I mean, Farid Basharat, as you recognize the name, Javid Basharat, his brother, is his main training partner, and then they also train with Amir Albazi. So they're in good hands over there with those three. I believe, yeah, Javid's fighting this weekend too, so keep an eye on them. Maybe the Basharat brothers both come through this week. But I mean, I like to think Farid's UFC level right now. I mean, I thought he would have dominated William Sousa. And in regards to his new opponent, Allan Begosso, I mean, we have Begosso here. Very dynamic fighter here. He is fast as fuck. I will say that. He's got a lot of speed in his hands, and as you can see, he's a very dynamic finisher. You see right here in the Paris Stanford fight, which was his most recent fight, he had a flying knee knockout, beautiful flying knee. But I did bet Paris Stanford in that fight as like a 5-1 underdog or some shit. And I'm not gonna hate that bet. Paris was looking good for 40 seconds till he died. But I mean, Begosso's game, he's not the best minute winner per se. He's kind of looking to just find that knockout blow with the left hook. I mean, it's a little bit low volume. I mean, he'll like to mix up his shots, go to the body, finish with the left hook. But I mean, he's got decent kicking game. I mean, it's not the best output, but I mean, when you look at how he's losing his fights, because he does have one loss, and you will see it's against to Richard Palencia, which it's actually a 5-round fight. Palencia was just able to take him down, and I mean, Begosso's takedown defense is literally him jumping for a guillotine or like a ninja choke. I mean, Farid, I believe Farid should grapple here because like I've seen Begosso taken down by numerous opponents. But as long as Farid is just able to stay safe on the feet, because you have to be careful. Begosso has a lot of power in his hands, and like I said earlier, power is the great equalizer. He's just got to watch out for the left hook. I will say if Farid does have one hole in his game, because I don't think he has many. He's a very talented fighter. Farid can leave his hands down. I mean, he can be clipped. We've seen him actually chinned in one of his more recent fights, but Farid was able to battle through it and got the finish in that fight. But it was a little bit sketchy at moments. But I mean, Begosso's gonna have the power. He kind of reminds me a little bit of a John Lineker, a little bit. Not a good minute winner, but can knock you the fuck out if you give him the chance. But I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I think Farid's the better fighter everywhere. It's just Begosso has the dynamic finishing ability in his back pocket, and you have to be wary of that. But I mean, we're gonna go for Farid Basharat here. It's kind of hard not to. More skilled fighter, more paths to victory. I mean, even on the feet, I think he can win off of volume. He throws a great teep kick. He just has a good kicking game in general. I think he can because you saw with Paris Stanford against Begosso, he was able to get off on his kicks early. He just got a little bit cocky and the flying knee got him there with his hands down. But regardless, I mean, we got to go for Red here. I think he's the better fighter. Just be wary. Maybe hedge Begosso inside the distance, more so the KO. I don't think he's gonna catch Farid with his guillotines or ninja chokes. That shit doesn't work on high level fighters. So I mean, we'll go Farid Basharat. Path to victory. I would say decision more likely than not, but like I said earlier on, forget which fight it was. Might have been the Marnic Man fight. Maybe with the sprinkle to the submission. If I think Farid has some grappling success or grappling upside, might as well sprinkle the submission just in case. So we're gonna go Farid Basharat by decision. And we'll get into the betting tips. I'll try to make this quick. All right. So I believe I'm on all the favorites except for Marnic Man, and even then, not a lot of confidence there in Marnic Man. But you got Malik Lewis versus Trevor Peak. Betting tips. Fight doesn't go to decisions. Clearly the best play. Malik Lewis, money line, I guess. Probably gonna parlay him up in some degenerate parlays. But I mean, if you're gonna bet Malik Lewis, I might hedge a little bit on Trevor Peak by KO because I mean that's his path to victory. And I mean we'll go to the next fight, Daniel Marcos versus Brandon Lewis. I don't want too much money on this fight, but if I were to place a bet, it would probably be on Brandon Lewis. And if we can get a good number on like the over 1.5, maybe take that too. I mean I don't think these dudes are big finishers to begin with. But I mean the layoff with for Marcos is just like scaring me off. Yeah, I don't really want to touch that because like we don't know what he's gonna look like. He could look like a stud, could look like complete shit, and Lewis might look like the lock of the night. But we'll go with Brandon Lewis and probably parlay him up in some degenerate stuff too. But and then we got Farad Basharat versus Begosso. I mean Basharat's minus 335. It's a little steep to my liking, considering he was fighting a worse opponent last time and he was at better odds. But I mean, minus 335. I mean, he is the main event. So I mean, if you want to parlay Farid Basharat, you can probably hedge out at the end of the night on Begosso by KO or Begosso inside the distance. But yeah, I'm gonna probably parlay Basharat. And with Bruna Brazil and Marnic Man, I'm gonna keep an eye on that line, see where it goes. I mean, I get why Bruna Brazil's the favorite. She has a lot more upside in her career. She's definitely the more flashy prospect of the two. But I mean, I can't ignore the takedown defense holes, and it's like I see this night in and night out with women's MMA. The better grappler just seems to find a way to win. And I'll go with Marnic Man here. Probably gonna sprinkle a little bit on the money line if hopefully it can get up to 2-1, maybe better than that. But keep an eye on that. Gonna be a small play, not a big play on Marnic Man. And then the last fight, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Gonna parlay Ikram Aliskerov. I will say he's probably my more confident. No, he is. He's my most confident pick on the card. Ikram just solely on the fact. I mean, we've seen Sousa get grapple fucked, and I think Ikram's a very high level fighter. I think he can compete in the top 15 today at middleweight. But yeah, I mean, if I had to pick a parlay, I would say Ikram Aliskerov, Allan, not Allan Begosso. Ikram Aliskerov, Farid Basharat, and then parlay. The fight doesn't go to decision in the Lewis Peak fight. Probably gonna be around even money, maybe get plus money. But if that parlay the first two legs hit, I'm gonna hedge Begosso inside the distance most likely. Because I mean the odds are already so juiced to begin with, and I gotta respect his dynamic finishing ability. But I mean, that's the parlay I like. I mean, Basharat, Aliskerov, probably the two best money lines of parlay. And then maybe my third favorite would probably be Malik Lewis. And I mean, maybe parlay the three of them. But if I had to do a full card parlay, we're doing Aliskerov, Marnic Man, Farid Basharat, Brandon Lewis, and Malik Lewis. So those five win. We're going to be fucking rich Tuesday night. All right, guys. Good luck. I will see you guys next week. Peace.